Gut, Voch boysai. We're holding Daf Yomi Bay's 5 lines from the bottom. First, we're going to talk about pouring the water. Then we're going to flip right into the wine. So that's the minimum. 3 lug of water b'chag on Sukkos. That's the only time you pour water on the mizbeach is on Sukkos. If you do that b'chutz, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, we continue with the whole sugya of things that you're not supposed to do outside. Chayav, Yechayev Kares. Rebbe Elazar Omer, Im Milon L'Shem Chag Chayav. If you filled up this kli, I'm just showing you. Okay, we don't need to see this because this is really for the next thing. If you filled it up for Sukkos, you're chayav. Ask the Gemara, my benayu, what is the difference? You have to fill it up for Sukkos. If you don't fill it up for Sukkos, if you take this cup of water and you spill it outside the Beis Hamikdash, why would I be chayav? It has to be because this cup of water is for the nisuch hamayim of Sukkos. This is special water. I had intent that I'm going to pour this on the mizbech inside. Then I went and I poured it outside. So then what are they arguing? What is Rebbe Elazar saying? Oh, if you filled it up for Sukkos, then you're chayiv. The Tanna Kamma also says you have to fill it up for Sukkos. My benayu. Omer Rav Nachman Yitzchak. The machlokes is Omer Rav Nachman Yitzchak b'yesh shir b'mayim kumifligi. So here's the shaila. It doesn't say it in the Gemara exactly. What does it mean if there's a shear? The question is, are you allowed to fill the kli with more than 3 lug, or even less than 3 lug? In other words, when you fill up the kli, does it be exactly 3 lug, or it could be even more? But if you hold it has to be exact, it has to be exact. It can't be less and it can't be more. Now, according to Rebbe Elazar, it has to be exact. Not a drop more and not a drop less. According to Chachamim, it could even be more. Okay, so that's one machlokes. Rav Papa Omar. Now, if you hold that you can have more water, more than 3 lug, so then the kli wasn't mekadosh anything. So you put in a kli, you have a giant kli that holds 5 lug instead of 3 lug, and you put in too much, so nothing becomes kaddish. Rav Papa Omar. What?
The second you get to 3, it's kaddish.
No. What's kaddish? Which part? Nothing. It doesn't have kedusha. No. I don't think so. I hear what you're asking, but it doesn't. The fact is, it doesn't remain kaddish. Rav Papa Omar. V'karvu nesachim b'midbar kumifligi. In other words, everybody holds you need exactly 3. You can't go more than 3. Just what? As we're going to see in the Gemara soon, it's a shaila whether or not there was wine pouring in the midbar. Now, if there was wine pouring in the midbar, then when they came into Eretz Yisrael, the way it worked, Klal Yisrael comes into Eretz Yisrael, and there's a 14-year period where they conquered and, what's the next word? Divided. Conquered and divided. Nachla. Right, we know right after the 14 years, there's a Mishkan, the whole thing. And that we'll see later. But during those 14 years, what happened? Now, if there was Nesachim in the Midbar, if they brought wine in the Midbar, so when Klal Yisrael comes into Eretz Yisrael, then they continue to bring wine. You see on the side, it brings the pasuk here, Daber b'nei Yisrael v'amart aleim ki savayu al eretz mishveiseichem. You enter Eretz Yisrael, Hashem ani noisen lachem. The question is, what happened? What is the Torah telling us to do when you come in? So, if there was Nesachim in the Midbar, so obviously the Torah is not saying, oh, bring Nesachim when you come into Eretz Yisrael, because we already brought Nesachim. We're already bringing wine in the Midbar. So we continue to bring wine in the Midbar. So then what? Then the Torah is saying that even on the small bama ktana, what's small bama? It could be massive, but it means your private bama in your backyard when you come into Eretz Yisrael. Because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash yet in Eretz Yisrael. We don't have a place for it. So the Torah is saying, even when you bring a carbon on your bama in your backyard, you bring Nesachim, Now think about it. Does the Torah tell you to bring it in a klisharis or without a klisharis? It's in your private backyard. With a klisharis or without a klisharis? Without. It's impossible. You can't use a klisharis. You don't have a klisharis. Well, you think everybody has a golden kli in their backyard? Klisharis is, even if you did, it's reserved for the Beis HaMikdash. For a special place, a Bama G'dayla. So Nachamal, the Torah is saying, you brought Nesachim in the Midbar, continue bringing these Nesachim when you come into Eretz Yisrael, meaning bring it in your backyard. Meaning without a klisharis. I don't want you to bring it with a klisharis. But if the Torah is, if there was no Nesachim in the Midbar, oh man, what's this? What are you showing me here, Gershon? It's coming up. It's me blowing my nose. It's in the last few days only. So, so if they didn't bring the Nesachim in the Midbar, then the Torah is saying, bring the Nesachim when you come inside into Eretz Yisrael. So, so Reb Lazar is going to say that you need a kli, and according to the Tanakama, you don't need a kli. Another machlokes Ravina Amar b'lemedim nisach hamayim nisach hayayim pligi. According to everybody, we're going to go back. According to everybody, there was nisach, there was nesachim, there was wine in the midbar, and you don't need a klisharis. There's wine in the midbar, so the Torah is saying continue doing your nesachim when you come into Eretz Yisrael, meaning you don't need a klisharis. However, the question is, I learned the water from the wine. There was wine, but what about water? Just like the wine does not need a klisharis, maybe water also doesn't need klisharis. No, or perhaps water does need a klisharis. Water is different than the wine. Torah Rabbanan. New sugya. Daf Kufiyat Aleph Amid Aleph. 110 Daf in the Zevachim. Hamanasach Shleisha Lugin Yayin. Now we're talking about wine. If you pour 3 lug of wine, which is the minimum of wine that you pour, 3 lug, bachutz, outside of the Beis HaMikdash, chayav yechayav kares. You're mamish like we said before. Same thing like we said before. V'hu shekitchen b'kli, Rebbe Loza says. As the Gemara Ma'avinai, what does he add? What's the machlokes here? They all hold you have to do a kli. So we're going to come up with new machlokes over here. Omer Avadabar Yitzchok Beirutze Midos Benayu. We know what that is. His Beirutze Midos. Anything above the rim, whether or not is the kli mekadosh it. It's not in the kli. It's above the kli. Now, why does it remain above the kli? Who cares? Service tension. Google it. That's not today's shir. It's beyond my scope. The point is that if it's above the rim, whether or not, that's the whole machlokes here. Great. According to Rebbe Lazar, no, it's not kaddish. You see that? Anything above the rim in this beautiful picture is not kaddish. It has to be below the rim. According to Tanakama, above the rim is also kaddish. That's all machlokes. How do you see that in the words? I'm not exactly sure. Rava Berei the Rabba Omar, Rava the son of Rabba, different Rava. Korvu nesachim bebama ike benayu. War their nesachim on the smaller bama. In other words, the bama in your backyard, which is a bama ktana. War did they pour wine over there? Oh, beplug did that in Tanoy. It's the same machlokes. The sanya bama siachadin it's richon nesachim. The Rebbe the chachamim tuna nesachim. We have a machlokes Tanoim whether or not there's wine poured on a private bama. And by the way, it's the same machlokes as another machlokes which we already mentioned. Now it's Chazarah. This sanya. Ki savayu. It says in the pasuk ki savayu el eretz Moshe v'seichem. Lahatino nesachim bebama gdoila akas medaber. That the Torah is telling us that there's no nesachim in the midbar, and therefore what? When you come into Eretz Yisrael, I want you to start doing nesachim for the very first time on the major bama. Maybe the pshat is that it goes on the smaller bama, meaning that in the midbar they did bring wine, they did pour wine in the mizbeach. Therefore, when the Torah tells you to continue pouring wine, the Torah is telling you continue pouring wine in your backyard without a klisharis. No. I'm telling you, for all the bamas. Okay? I'm sorry, not all the bamas. But the major bama, the bama that works for everybody, for the bama g'dayla. Rabbi Akiva argues and he says the exact opposite. The Torah is telling you, continue bringing the sachim because you were bringing the midbar, continue bringing now also on your private bama, meaning without a glishar as a custom davar. Maybe the Torah is telling you that they didn't bring the sachim in the midbar, and you should start bringing for the very first time when you come into Eretz Yisrael on the public bama. It says, plural. In other words, this bama is everywhere. There's only one bama g'dayla, so if it's talking in a plural lashon, it means on all your private bamas as well. So what comes out from this? Comes out, the Rabbi Shmuel covered in something about midbar, so it works out beautifully. According to Rabbi Shmuel, they didn't bring nisachim in the midbar, and that's why the Torah tells you to start bringing in an bama g'dayla when you come into Eretz Yisrael. Well, the Rabbi Akiva covered nisachim about midbar, but according to Rabbi Akiva, where they brought nisachim in the midbar, so what's the Torah telling you? Continue bringing the nisachim in your private backyard. Great, new sugya. Rabbi Nechemia Omer. We have to do all this in 15 minutes, not a big deal. Rabbi Nechemia says, if you do this, Shiar Adam, you all remember this? L'maisa, we got to take the sound off of this. Shiar Adam is the leftover blood. After you do Zrika, you pour the you throw the blood on the Mizbeach. What do you do with the leftover? So you put it into the drainage over here. Now, Rabbi Nechemia says that if you do that, you pour it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayav. That can only mean one thing. That must be that pouring of the blood into the drainage is part of the avodah. It's not, oh, I have nothing to do with this, let me put it away. Fine. Okay. Basically, Nechemia Omer Shiar Adam Shekrivam Bachutz Chayav. What is this? That if you put the blood on, Nechemia Omer Shiar Adam Shekrivam Bachutz Chayav. Omar Loi Rabbi Akiva Valoi Shiar Adam Shiar Mitzvah. How can you tell me that you're chayiv? It's not ma'akiv. It's just a leftover of a mitzvah. It's interesting why he answers him this. He has another answer the Gemara says later, and this proves us something. Now what? He says, let me prove to you. You're done with the animal. How are you done? Rabbis, we learned Zevachim, so we know that what finishes off the avodah is the zrika of the blood. After that, if you do things, you don't do things, it's not ma'akiv. The ivarim and the b'darim, you don't put it on the mizbeach. No, it's not the end of the world. You still get a kapara. Shem shiar mitzvah, v'makrim b'chutz chayav. Yet, even though the blood is the what's ma'akiv, the ivarim now, but if you take the ivarim and bring it outside on the mizbeach, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayav kares. So you see that even though it's not ma'akiv, you could still get kares. So the blood also. So it's not ma'akiv, but you brought it outside, you should get kares. Amar loy, no. You know why? Because it's a brand new avodah called putting the imurim and whatever meat you have to put onto the mizbeach. New avodah. It's the end of avodah. It's not the beginning of avodah. So therefore, since it's a new avodah to put a imurim on, that's why you chayiv kares. But blood is the end of the avodah. That's why you shouldn't be chayiv. V'misa, and if it's true that Shiar Adam is ma'akiv, leimelei, so Rabbi Nechemia should tell Rabbi Akiva, hanami ma'akvi. What do you mean? Shiar Adam is ma'akiv. Diyufta. Now I have another answer completely. This is machlokes in the leftover blood that belongs inside the heichal. But the blood that we're talking about, blood that belongs in the Azara, nobody holds that it's ma'akiv. So Kikamar Rabbi Nechemia b'Shemaim Apnimim. So what Rabbi Nechemia is talking about inner bloods, and those are ma'akiv. Kitan Yahi b'Shemaim Chitzayim. So you ask me a question from another place. That's talking about. So you could always answer. Oh, it's not ma'akiv. The outer ones, the inner ones are ma'akiv. Says the Gemara. So Rashi takes out this thing, but the point over here is How come Rabbi Nechemia didn't answer Rabbi Kiva that he was talking about blood, the inner bloods? Why does he go and tell him, Pedorim and Emurim? Tell him, no, we're talking about two different bloods. One is Maki, one is not. But at the end of the day, the Dvar of Rabbi Kiva Kamar. He himself holds that Shirayim is Ma'akiv. The blood is part of the Avodah Ma'akiv. He's saying, according to you, that you hold it's not Ma'akiv, I'll still tell you that, look, a Varim, a Murim, then he starts telling him about a Murim Dar. Zok the Mishnah. Hamoilik is Ha'oiv Bifnim. Here, let's do this for a second together. I think this will help a lot. If you do Malika, that's the only way to kill a bird, to shech a bird. I don't want to say shech because that's shchita. But to kill a bird in the Beis HaMikdash, the only way is to do it with your thumb. Malika. So if you do Malika inside the Beis HaMikdash, and you take that bird and you bring it outside the Beis HaMikdash, what's the halacha, Rabbi Isai? You chayiv kares. Why? Because you did what you need to do. You killed it perfectly with your thumb, and then you took it outside. What about if you did Malika outside, and you brought it outside? You potter. Why? There's no such thing as Malika outside. So by you doing Malika outside of Beis HaMikdash, you made an avela. That's all you did. You can't eat this animal. We're going to call that number 2. What's number 3? Shchita inside. You don't shech the bird. We're talking about birds now. You don't take a knife and cut a bird inside the Beis HaMikdash. So if you did that inside the Beis HaMikdash, and then you took the bird, the dead bird, and you put it on the mizbeach outside the Beis HaMikdash, you potter. Very similar to Malika outside. Malika outside and Shchita inside are the same thing. They both don't work. Malika doesn't work outside the Beis HaMikdash, and Shchita doesn't work inside the Beis HaMikdash. And finally, for number 4, Shchita outside, which is perfect. That's what you do to a bird. You shech the bird outside. And we're talking about a bird that belongs in the Beis HaMikdash, but you shechted it outside, and then you put it on a mizbeach outside, so you chayiv. Yeah? These are the 4 cases. Let's see inside. It's very important to know this. We're going to be using 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of actually talking about cases. I'll say the case also, but the numbers help a lot now. Hamoilik is chayiv. Why? Because it's the words are easy. It just gets confusing because Malika, Shchita, inside, outside. By the way, they all end out the same thing. Hela b'chutz, hela b'chutz, hela b'chutz. It's all the same. The question is, what did he do inside? The Malika, or did he do Malika outside? Shchita inside, Shchita outside. That's it. That's the whole nafkamina. Hamoilik is oiv b'fnim. Now we're doing Chazarah. He did Malika to a bird inside the Beis HaMikdash. That's what you're supposed to do. B'fnim. V'hela b'chutz, but then he took the dead bird and brought it outside. Chayiv is chayiv kares. But if he did something you're not supposed to do, you don't do Malika outside the Beis HaMikdash. And if you do Malika to a bird outside the Beis HaMikdash, what happens? The bird becomes a nevela. V'hela b'chutz pater. Next case, that's case number 2. Case number 3. Hashoichet esayv. He shechted a bird, bifnim, inside the Beis HaMikdash. So what happened? He made it possible. V'hela b'chutz, and he took it outside, pater. Because all he did was he passled the bird. Now there's a pasuk. Shacha b'chutz v'hela b'chutz chayav. If he shechted outside, that's what you're supposed to do shechita, but it's a kachem bird. V'hela b'chutz, and he put it on top of the mizbeach chayav. What is it chayav? Once or twice, Rabbi Isai, how many yisurim was he over here? 2 yisurim. Nimtza derech hechsher b'fnim, turi b'chutz. So it comes out that, you know what, Kobe worked hard. I told him not to do this, but he insisted to do it. Malika, inside, chutz, shchita, okay, whatever. I just wanted those straight lines. I like straight lines. Here, I'm going back to mine. Here we go. Shacha b'chutz v'ela b'chutz. Sorry, nimtza derech sheiroi b'fnim. How do you make a bird kosher inside the Beis HaMikdash? With Malika. P'turi b'chutz. If you use that system outside of Beis HaMikdash, that makes you potter. Derech sheir b'chutz. How do you make a bird kosher outside the Beis HaMikdash? With shchita. P'turi b'fnim. So if you use that method inside the Beis HaMikdash, you potter. Now, this is today's Gemara. Reb Shimon Oimer. Kol shechayavim olav b'chutz. Anything that you are chayiv, remember these words, you chayiv on him outside. Chayavim ha'kayayz b'fnim shel chutz min ha'shoichi b'fnim v'amala b'chutz. Now he says this line, besides. So on this chart right over here, besides number 3. Besides, shoichet b'fnim u'mal b'chutz, that I agree, you're potter. But what did he say? What exactly did he say? So that's today's sugya until the Mishnah, and it's very, very simple with this chart. Ask the Gemara, Hayach Sheiroi, what are you telling me? This is the hechsher. Derech hechsher machutz, Hayach Sheiroi chiyuvayu. It's not a hechsher, that makes it chayev. It makes it not good. You're right, so you have to stick in the word chiyuv. Reb Shimon Oimer, what's Reb Shimon referring to? What is he arguing on? Let's say he's talking about the first two things. Amalika. If he does the malika inside the Beis Hamikdash and you bring it outside, you're chayev. One, that's one. Two, if he did the malika outside the Beis Hamikdash where you're not supposed to do, then you're potter. And on that, Reb Shimon comes to argue. Just like you're chayev on number one, so too on number two you're chayev, not potter. The problem is it doesn't fit into his words. Why does he say that whatever you chayev outside? No, he's saying just like number one. What's number one? Malika inside. So he should have said just like inside you're chayev, so too outside. That's not what he said. He said just like outside, so too inside. Doesn't work. Okay. The Gemara at the end is going to go back to this, that maybe this is what he meant. Maybe what he meant to say is just like number two. Rabbi says, see number two, Malika outside, you're potter, so too number one, you should be potter. He's not saying chayiv, he's saying potter. That also doesn't work. He should have said a different words. Whatever you're not, since you're not chayiv outside, that's not what he said. He says, Kol shechayav ma'olav b'chutz. And he should have said Kol she'ein chayavim olav b'chutz. The word ein is missing, right? Because we're saying just like number two you're potter, so too number one you're potter. That's not what he said. He said just like you're chayiv, so too you should be chayiv. He didn't say you're potter. Okay, so that doesn't work. Ela seifa. Now we have to go to the number 3 and 4. What does it say in the 3 and 4? If you shech the bird inside the Beis Hamikdash, that's not what you're supposed to do, so therefore you're potter. But you are supposed to shech birds outside, therefore just like you're not chayiv, and number 3, so too, that's why 4 should also be potter. The problem is that he says you're chayiv, just like you're chayiv, you should be chayiv. He should have said potter. The same question that we had before. Yeah? Rabbi, is he holding with me? It's pashut. Elo. Just like in number 4. You're chayiv. Oh, that makes more sense with what he said. He said, oh, just like you're chayiv, so too you should be chayiv. But the only one that's chayiv is number 4. 4 you're chayiv, and 3 is potter, so he's arguing number 3. Let's flip 3 to make it chayiv. But the problem is, he says mafurish, the last words of the Mishnah is that number 3, I'm not arguing number 3. Number 3 is going to remain potter. How could you change number 3 to make it to be chayiv? Omer Ziri, check this out. Oh, here we go. Rabbi says, check this out. We're adding 5 and 6. So 5 and 6 is identical to 3 and 4. Just we're talking about, there's an animal here, not a bird. We're talking about behemoths and at night. Okay? So shchita inside at night is potter, just like 3. 3 and 5 are the same. 3 shchita b'fnim potter, and 5 is also potter. And 6 is chayiv. 6 is like 4, chayiv. Great. So what did the Ziri gain? Because over here, it's a little different because it's behema and shchita at night, and we don't have the concept in Allah lo yerid. That's the only difference. This is what Reb Shimon is arguing. In other words, Ziri is saying that you're missing from the Mishnah 2 cases. It's a chesuri mechzer kind of. It was missing, but it's understood. When Reb Shimon started talking, he obviously was talking about a different case. A case not mentioned in the Mishnah, case number 5 and 6. Great. That the Tanna Kama holds 5 and 6 like this, potter and chayiv, and Reb Shimon argues, says no, they're both chayiv. Like number 6. Reb Shimon Omer, does he argues, I argue 5 and 6 are both chayiv, not potter. Chutz, by the way, besides number 3. Number 3, I agree, is potter. 5 and 6 is chayiv, 3 is potter. That's what he's arguing. Great. Rav Amar, Kabbalah b'kli chol liki benayu. Rav is doing the same exact idea as Ziri, but let's check this out. A different 5 and 6. If you're makabel with a mundane, let's say your negelvasser, what you wash your hands for hamoitzi with, you do a Kabbalah with kli chol liki benayu. Over here also in Mala Yered, hamkabel kli chol b'fnim v'hela b'chutz potter. Here we have a potter and a chayiv, 5 and 6. Comes Rabbi Shimon and says, no, both 5 and 6 are, anybody? Chayiv. But I'm not going to argue on number 3. In that case, you potter. Now, says the Gemara, Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, Hamoilek, oy b'fnim v'heloi b'chutz chayiv. According to Avuda Shmuel, if you shech the bird inside v'heloi b'chutz chayiv, shoichet b'chutz. No, I'm sorry, malak. Where am I? Hamoilek oy b'fnim, which is number 1. Hamoilek oy b'fnim v'heloi b'chutz chayiv. Malak b'chutz v'heloi b'chutz potter. V'Reb Shimon mechayev. So now it's 1 and 2. You could say the whole thing like we started off the whole sugya. Reb Shimon is arguing, and 1 and 2, the reish of the Mishnah. Now what? 2 over here, the Tanna Kama says potter. Reb Shimon is going to say chayev. We had a problem with that. It doesn't fit into the wording. Reb Shimon hasam kai. So Reb Shimon actually is not 5 and 6. You don't have to add anything to the Mishnah. We're going back to what we had before. What was it? Just 4 cases in the Mishnah. And he's arguing on number 2. Tanna Kama says number 2, Malika B'chutz, is potter. Reb Shimon says Malika B'chutz is chayev. Now, what do we do with the wording? Utni, fine. We'll just fix up the wording a little bit. Now the wording makes a lot of sense. It fits right in. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful week. A good Voch. Shkoyach for coming.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.